Hi, today I wanted to go over a few what I'm calling knee hacks because as you can see, I've got some knee stuff going on. I've had a few ACL reconstructions, but most recently I've had a meniscal transplant and a meniscal repair. So when your meniscus has issues, some of the things that you have to be really cautious about are knee flexion. So making your knee bend all the way, like I can't bend my knee all the way. And then being in figure four shape, so like sitting cross-legged, doing pigeon pose, things like that are not happening. So I've been playing in my yoga practice with a few ways of trying to be able to go with the flow and do the poses in ways that still sort of feel useful, but are safe for my knee. And I wanted to share a few of those in case you have knee pain or similar knee issues and you want to try out some new ways of approaching these poses. So we'll start with child's pose because I cannot sit in child's pose, and I can't even do it with like a bolster behind my knees. You know, typically the cue is to put a bolster behind your knees and then to sit back. No, I can't do that. So if you have that issue as well, you can try this. You can always just lie on your back, but in class when we come to child's pose, usually people are just trying to rest there for a second. And so one of the things people say to do is puppy pose, which is this. But I really don't find this very restful. My back gets really archy and it doesn't feel restful, it just feels uncomfortable. So what I've been doing is putting a block, and if you're really sensitive, you need a squishy block or put a blanket or something on top of this. But I put it right on my chest so that it supports my spine, basically. And then you can let your head hang, or you could put a block or a bolster underneath your forehead. And then you can at least sort of be in a semi-restful position when you're doing child's pose. That's been my favorite way of getting at it so far for child's pose. And then similarly, when it's time for pigeon pose, I definitely am not doing pigeon on this side. So I take it really similarly to child's pose because I can't do a figure four and then put a lot of pressure on it. That's not safe for my knee. So I have been, and I'll try and show where you can see it. I've been doing this sort of cross like this. And depending on your knee, you could fan your knee out further. You know, mine needs to be a little more forward for my personal issue. So I do that shape. So I'm sort of in a pigeon shape. And then if I'm resting, like if we're doing upright pigeon, like a back bend, then I can do this, like cow. And it's not the same, but at least I'm getting a little bit of a back bend and it stretches my hip out, you know? And then if we're doing resting pigeon, then I do it just like child's pose where I will put the block underneath me. And then I can sort of shift my hips side to side until I feel the stretch back here like in pigeon pose. And so in this way, I really don't feel pain or stress in my knee, but I can still get that same sensation and stretch of pigeon pose. So that's child's pose and pigeon. And for me, pigeon on my back does nothing for me because it's too much torque. Like if I'm here, it's too much torque to pull in, and I don't feel any stretch here. So to me, this is useless. I just lay here. If I have to try that and go on my back, which is probably the most common, if pigeon doesn't work for you, go to your back. But that does not work for me. So try the kneeling version, the tabletop version. And then another one that's tough is Virasana. I really like sitting in Virasana, which is hero's pose, which is sitting back on your heels. I find it to be a really nice posture to practice, and it's a huge bummer to me that I can't do it with my knee. And so what I've been doing is with the one knee where I can sit back, you know, and whatever height, right, you need to use, kind of like low block. I sit back. but it's really uncomfortable to just let your knee dangle in midair, right? So I just take a block and stick it under there. And then I feel pretty comfortable here, and I could sit and meditate or just sit in Virasana. This leg is just like it would be if I were doing Virasana on both sides. Yeah. But I got some support for my right one. So that's my Virasana hack. That's been working pretty well. You can also do it like this if you don't have anything to go under, but it's harder to sit comfortably and relaxed up tall. And squat. Squatting's so good for you, even if one of your knees doesn't like it. So I've done it a couple of ways. You can either block it and then be in your squat, or you can end up here and you can do the twists and whatever else you would want to do from your squat. Or depending on how your other knee is, you don't want to do this unless the other knee is really comfortable in a squat, because it's going to be a lot of flexion pressure on this other knee, right? So you can do this sort of awkwardly shaped squat, and it still works pretty well. Like I can do some things from here, and if I'm just flowing through and I don't have time to put blocks under me, I might do this. But just be aware that you are going to be putting extra pressure on the knee that's holding you up in the squat, so just to make sure that that's safe for it. Those are some of the most noticeable things that I've come across in yoga practice that have made a difference for my knee. And if you have any questions about specific issues that you have and how you might be able to work around them, that's something I'm really interested in doing. And so let me know, and I'll see what I can come up with.